Good afternoon, everyone. I am Bhakti Pandey, working as an assistant professor at IIMT College of Pharmacy, Greater Noida. So, today's topic for video lecture is basic structure of skin and its function. Today's content that I will cover is the structure of skin, then epidermis and its functioning. Inside this, I will cover keratinization, dermis, sebaceous gland, sweat gland, hypodermis, that is also known as subcutaneous layer, then appendages of the skin, finally skin flora and skin pH. So here is the skin structure. So the basic structure of the human skin is consists of the outermost layer that is known as the epidermis, and the surface area of the skin in average in normal adult is approximately 1.5 to 2 meters square. Skin is made up of dead cells, epithelium, connective tissue, muscle, nerves, and blood vessels, as well as the appendages. That is the accessory of the skin, uh, includes the nails, hairs, glands, glands such as sebaceous glands, eccrine and apocrine glands that are also known as the sweat glands. So, skin structure consists of three layers basically, that are the epidermis, that is known as the superficial or we can say outermost layer of the skin. Then comes dermis, that is the middle layer of the skin. Then hypodermis, that is the deepest region or deepest layer of the skin. Subcutaneous layer deep to the skin is not technically is a part of skin. It consists of mostly adipose tissues. Then epidermis, what is epidermis? And epidermis is a stratified squamous epithelium which is terminally differentiated, and the thickness of the epidermis is approximately 0.5 to 0.1 mm. It constitutes keratinocytes, more than 95% of epidermal cells. And the brick-like structure of the keratinocytes is provided by the cytoskeleton made of the filament that is known as the keratin. And epidermis differentiate cell-like flattened, uh, epidermis differentiated cells. These are the flattened cells. The process involve the fragment aggregating protein is filament aggregating protein called as flagellin. Keratin and flagellin both comprises approximately 90% mass of the epidermis. The layers of the epidermis are stratum corneum, stratum lucidum, stratum granulosum, and stratum spinosum. So the uppermost layer or the only dead layer we can say is stratum corneum. It constitutes very thick layers and almost contain 15 to 13 layer of dead cells. Stratum lucidum is a translucent layer that contains approximately 3 to 5 rows that with a densely packed flat dead cells. Then stratum granulosum, it basically consists granules in their structure. So it is known as granulosum and keratinocytes. And in this layer, granules can be observed in the cell. So the name suggests such as granulosum. Stratum spinosum contain the 8 to 10 rows of the cell. This layer is responsible for the production of lipid and protein synthesis. Then comes melanocytes. So what are melanocytes? Melanocytes are found in the basal layer, that is the deeper layer. And this is basically responsible for the production of melanin in our body. That there is a pigment in our body called as melanin is basically gives our skin color. So melanin also provide photo protection to our skin from the ultraviolet radiations or ultraviolet rays. So keratin is another pigment responsible for the skin color. It is also found in the epidermis and has orangish yellow color in this. So keratin is also found in the vegetables and fruits like orange and carrot. So one who is eating carrot or oranges more, so their skin color may be slightly orange. Next up is Langerhans cells. These cells plays an important role in body's immune system. They provide the immunity. They work as immune cells in our body. So next is Merkel cells. Merkel cells lies close to the sensory nerve endings and in the stratum basilae. Then the basic function of Merkel cells is a function of a touch as a touch receptor. So it is made up of stratum corneum is basically made up of tightly packed water resistant cells which are embedded with a complex lipid material. That lipid material is basically known as intracellular laminar lipids, uh, which is made up of the ceramides, cholesterol, and few fatty acids. Corinocytes contains hygroscopic compounds that forms the natural moisturizing factors which plays a vital role in maintaining the hydration of our body, or we can say the outermost layer, that is stratum corneum. Natural moisturizing factor of a body or natural moisturizing factor component are water soluble and are easily leached from the cell of the skin that are uh, excessive use when we excessively use soaps, cleansers. It will cause a dry and flaky skin, or sometimes it feels uncomfortable. The word keratinization. So what is keratinization basically? It is a cornification, also known as cornification, and it is the dynamic process of epidermal removal. So epidermal continuously shed off and renews itself. Then it begins in the basal layers where a new skin cell generates that are known as keratinocytes and form and are continuously pushed upward where the composition and the shape changes significantly. Cells reach in the third layer, stratum granulosum, the most stopped dividing and have started production or producing the keratin. Cells migrate and eventually they fall off. The cell in the epidermis contains a lot of keratin which resists the skin damage. Dead skin cells shed from the surface of the skin, and the process is known as desquamation. Here in this image, we can see the clear picture of the skin that is showing first layer, which is known as the stratum corneum, that is the uppermost, or we can say topmost layer, that is the horny cells, known as dead cells also. Then comes stratum lucidum, and these are translucent in nature. Then granulosum. Granulosum contains granules in the structure. And finally, the stratum basilae to stratum basilae, last layer, or we can say uh, close to the dermis layer. Layers of the epidermis. Timing of movement between layers. So there is a timing between the movement of layer from basilae to the uppermost corneum layer. So stratum basilae cells take about 15 to 30 days to reach stratum corneum. Cells remain in the stratum corneum in additional 2 weeks, and after that they shed off. Replace the cells of the skin and new and uh, once every 2 months. Replaces the skin cells and in every 2 months. So vitamin D production is also occur in the epidermis, as we all know, which is known as the main source of vitamin D in humans. UV light stimulates the conversion of the precursor 7 dehydroxycholesterol, also known as provitamin D3. To so these are the vitamins. Then epidermis also contain epidermis do not contain blood vessels. It is entirely dependent on the underlying layers known as the dermis for nutrient delivery. It made up of large quantity of keratin, which is responsible for the skin's strength. Basic functioning of the epidermis: bacteria, virus, and infectious agent are kept out, helping prevent infections on your skin. Water and nutrients are kept in our body to use. Body parts that are more susceptible to injury, like soles of our feet and palms of our hands, have the thicker epidermis for the better protection from the environmental factors. Then comes the melanin. So amount of melanin in each cell differs from people to people or person to person. The more melanin you have, the darker skin tone you have. So the sunlight can increase the amount of melanin produced in the melanocytes to a degree. What causes you a sun damage, or we can say suntan? The other important role of melanocyte is filtering out the ultraviolet radiations from the sun. UV radiation generally causes skin cancer. So it is also causes wrinkles, and people with the darker skin, as we all know, have the more melanin in their skin. So they can filter out more UV radiation and are likely to get skin cancer and wrinkles more probably. Dermis layer. The dermis is located under the epidermis that provides a supporting frame to the epidermis, supplying it with nutrients and oxygen via the blood capillaries. It is strong, flexible connective tissue, connective fibroblast, which produce the intracellular substances and collagen fiber. Nerves and sensory organs, blood vessels, sebaceous glands, sweat glands, hair follicles, as well as connective tissue containing collagen and elastin fiber. Collagen fiber is very important for the skin strength, while elastin is responsible for the elasticity of the skin. Its ability to spring back after its stretch is due to the protein known as elastin. In these fibers, if the fibers are damaged, for example, as a result of aging, the skin become very loose, look thin and wrinkled. In addition, the collagen plays an important role in wound healing as well. So nerve ending are responsible for the uh, nerve ending is also responsible for the transmission of sensory signals such as the touch, pressure, pain, and temperature. Blood vessel plays an important role and essential role in transporting oxygen and nutrients. In addition, they are particularly important for regulation of body temperature, along with the sweat glands. As water uh, evaporates in the form of sweat from our skin, it has a cooling effect and subsequently decreases the body temperature. Then comes sebaceous gland. So sebaceous gland is basically a oil gland. So they have a tiny duct or a tiny opening into the each hair follicle. Sebaceous gland are a part of polysebaceous unit, which also include hair follicles and small muscles. Sebaceous gland are widely distributed. Most develop from hair follicles, becomes activated at the age of puberty. Sebum, basically oil halocrine secretion. It is bactericidal in nature and used in a softening of hair and skin. In normal skin, there is a continuous movement of water from the deeper layer to the superficial layer, where the water eventually evaporates from the environment. Skin hydration reflects the water content of the stratum corneum and is represented as TEWL, known as the transepidermal water loss. TEWL is a diffusion of water through the skin. TEWL is not visible from the naked eyes. If the skin is damaged by either physical or chemical agent, the barrier function is somewhat compromised and increase in the TEWL values. So moisture content of normal skin. Water is necessary for the skin to maintain its flexibility. Otherwise, skin will become over dry, loose, and cracky. So, faster peeling means the skin cells begin to shed rapidly, which triggers an increase in the rate of cell production in the basal layer, and the process of cell growth, migration, and shedding is accelerated. The barrier is significantly weakened since cell providing the barrier do not have time to fully mature. So, human skin flora, there are two types of human skin flora known as transient flora and resident flora. So, the resident flora is the resident microbiota, consists of microorganisms that are residing in the superficial layer, that is stratum corneum, and it is most common bacteria including corneum bacteria, streptococcus, and while most of the common fungus genus is Malassezia. The resident flora protects the host from the pathogenic bacteria. Then the transient flora is known as the temporary flora of the skin that easily colonized when the resident flora will become weaker. Then this include bacteria, fungus, virus, which reaches to the hand. For example, by direct skin to skin contact and via directly or indirectly contact with any object. Transient flora can be non-pathogenic as well as pathogenic, depending upon the microorganism and depending upon what we are touching. So if the resident flora is disturbed, transient flora or transient micro organism can colonize in the body, colonize in the skin. They can proliferate and produce any disease. Here are some difference between the floras, resident flora and the transient flora. So the resident flora is present in the deeper layer of the skin, and these are the permanent flora. If it is disturbed, it can be reestablished, uh, not removed by routine hand wash, usually not associated with any transmission of diseases or infections. And resident organism, it is known as the superficial microorganism, and it is temporary one, usually do not reestablish themselves easily, can be removed uh, with the routine hand wash, usually associated with transmission of infection. Basically it can cause the infection as well. So for with this I'm ending my today's video lecture. Thank you so much for your time.